Hello, Starknet family. Welcome back to the Star Cafe. I'm Nurstar, your personal Star barista. And once again, we are ready to serve you with some very special Starknet content. Well, my friends, prepare yourself for a very interesting episode about some cool NFT infrastructure being built on Starknet. In fact, we have the pleasure to host Briyan from ScreenshotLabs, which is the team behind the manga-powered Evereye NFT project and the ArkProject, which is an infrastructure which is being built for NFTs. And this is also the topic of today's cafe. So let's welcome our guest for today. Hello, Briyan. How are you?
Hey guys, hey Nerstar. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm doing great. Thank you.
That's great. It's a pleasure to have you here at the Star Cafe. So, Briyan, before diving deep into the art project itself and what that means for the NFT space on Starknet, could you give us an overview on Screenshot Labs and on your work in the past 2 years, please?
Yeah, sure. So Screenshot Lab today, we have, let's say, as a company, we have two and a half on our way to get our third year ongoing as a company. So I've been gathered pretty early on with Christophe and Remy that are my two co-founders, and we've been actually working into the NFT space since the company has been raised. So basically, the status that we have is all around NFTs, and we think NFTs are a really interesting assets to be working with. So we consider that in economical theory, there are two typology of assets that are really important, and as blockchain is one of them, we believe that there is those two typology of assets that are different, that are used for different things. On one side, the fungible assets that are more related to the money aspect, and on the other side, what we could define as the non-fungible ones that are more related to objects in general. And when it relates to the economy, the potential of NFTs in our current economy, as we could define a conventional one, is really profound. And I think in every day of our life, we use actually the money we gather and we earn from mostly our jobs and mostly our revenues to invest them into non-fungible assets. And so the thesis of the team was always to try to look around those NFTs and to develop it and to appropriate ourselves the technology and to try to make concrete and smart use cases out of them. And since then, we've been surrounded by really amazing people in different typology of profile, of course. But in gaming, specifically when we worked on Game of Blocks, in the IP world, where we've been surrounded by as well pretty amazing people from Riot Games in the early days, and as well we used to work with Mehdi Awishawi, and so we've been trying to create concrete stuff and things that would make sense on the consumer side. And as the company evolved and as we understand much better about the ecosystem and as well the market as kind of evolved, we've been realizing as well that there was quite some interesting opportunities to raise on all the problems we've met through our journey. And basically, this is kind of the reason why ArkProject was born, and I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about it today. But basically, ArkProject. That's actually a reference to our IP, which is called Evereye, which is kind of these spaceships that's trying to bring everyone from one place to another, like in Noah's arcs. And so basically, what we try to do is we try to, through all our understanding of the market and the technology, try to provide the best and the most relevant infrastructure that would enable people that would use NFTs as a technology in their businesses. And we could talk deeper about what it means, but basically this is kind of the overarching perspective.
Awesome, Brian. And first of all, congrats for for almost 3 years of so many developments in the space regarding the great job that you guys did at ScreenshotLabs. And I also find NFTs very fascinating because they introduce the concept of digital property, and they obviously have endless potential when it comes not only to the IP world, but also for everyday use cases, as you were saying. And at the beginning, like of the last summer, after months of behind the scenes developments, our project was announced by Screenshot Labs, and it was announced with its motto, NFTs made easy with shared liquidity. And I also remember that it also arrived, like this announcement arrived on the NFT scene in a delicate time when the first two main NFT marketplaces on Starknet, Aspect and Mint Square, were closing down. And could you share some words with us about the mission of the ARK project and its early days, and also which problem you're trying to solve with this kind of infrastructure?
Sure. So ultimately, what we believe, my team and I, is that as I said, non-fungible assets are going to be a part of the alternative economy that we're gonna have on the blockchain. Of this, that I think we're pretty sure about it. It's just a matter of time, and in terms of matter of implementation, in terms of matter of how the infrastructure enable new dApps to be more relevant, because eventually we came to the point through 2021, 2022 that, in my opinion, the environment was not ready yet to build consumer applications in many regards. But mostly, of course, what is the most evident is like the cost of the gas fees were insanely high at the moment. The user experience was really bad, and I think it's quite still with the wallet that you need today to have, either be it on the layer 1 or on the layer 2. And as well the experience, that the user experience overall was super bad through the really slow process of the blockchain that like we used to be. Eventually, for some people maybe here, when we were younger, actually, when we used to have like internet at the beginning, the page would actually make like I don't know, a few seconds to download and to charge, and whenever you click on a button, it wouldn't go directly straight and stuff and everything, and all these kind of inertia is pretty pregnant today, still on the blockchain, and it didn't allow for really good consumer application to be built at the moment yet, other than if people took strong decisions when it comes to like the network they are building on top of. So for example, like Sorare took a quite a strong stance pretty early on to say, like, we're going to go into an app chain and we're going to build on StarkX, which is one of the underlying of Starkware as well. And they've made these decisions to optimize for the cost of the gas fees, of course, but as well for the user experience. And so we believe that this is just going to be much more normal in few months from now, eventually. But the user experience that dApps will be able to provide are going to be key and are going to be much better. And so when we talk about this, eventually the cycle of innovation, it's always almost the same. You have the infrastructure that is building up. You have then the consumer application that are built on top of it. But then the consumer application realize they are lacking features. So infrastructure try to build up those features to then enable better dApps to be created, and et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of a ladder. So you go from the bottom to the top, and you just try to iterate with the infrastructure and the dApps to make them much better over time. And so our perspective was to say, okay, so we've been building actually the dApps based on the current infrastructure, and we've realized what was, in our opinion, lacking on two perspectives. One perspective is for us much more related to the kind of the technical aspect of it, and the other one is much more related to the philosophical aspect of it. So if we comes to but eventually, I'm going to dive a little bit more into those 2 points. But eventually, what matters the most anyway that when we're gonna have like better infrastructure, it has for a purpose to just serve concrete businesses. I think that's what matters the most, in my opinion. Like we are seeing a lot of like iterations, tests, a lot of different things that has been tried by many teams in many different ways. But ultimately, what we want to have on the blockchain, and I think it's pretty obvious, but it's kind of what's missing at the moment. It's concrete, good, power useful use cases, power apps, for the good the good concrete use cases of the blockchain. And so when I'm talking about this is just like how do we create business value? That's the most important stuff, I think, out of everything. And so what do we try us to do right now is that we've been on the business side trying to create value, and we are still actually with Evrai. And on the other side, there is all what we think is required to be able to make those businesses successful. And so two parts, philosophical, technological. So on the philosophical part, what we've realized is just that there was a lot of disempowerment in the space due to for the creators subjects back in the early 2023, when like Blur and all those different actors like that were using centralized technology were actually nerfing the creators fees, and without the consent of the creators, of course. And when we got to this perspective, for us it got pretty obvious that it's not a good way, in our opinion, to develop a good economical environment for the future. Because what as an economy, what do you want to have? You want to have people that are creating business value, so what I call the creators, and people that are buying the value, so eventually the consumer. And in this scenario, what those companies like OpenSea, Blur, and all those different guys that decided to do on the layer one is just to say, okay, so we are on the layer one, there is a limited amount of liquidity from the consumer, and we don't care anymore about the creators so much, and we are going to just focalize ourselves on trying to absorb as much liquidity as we can from the consumer. Actually, I made a tweet about this, if you guys want to see that I explain much more in detail what I think about this. But it's something for me that was pretty obvious. And so in an economy where you want the economy to be looking forward, you just want to push the creators, the people that are creating the business value, and the consumer to come in to try to create not a vicious circle, but a virtuous cycle on the other side. And so this is the first part about the creators part that we thought was a really bad stuff for the environment anyway. And on the other side, there was the market fragmentation. So when you think about economical theory, it's quite obvious that when we talk about a decentralized economy and an open source economy, mostly about what we do, it's pretty obvious that and we tend to saw it with the centralized exchange and decentralized exchange, like Coinbase, Binance, and Uniswap. That there was two different perspectives. On one side, you have the people that want still to be centralized, and on the other side, that people that try to play within the ethos of Web3, which is about trying to bring more decentralization and trying to bring smarter, eventually, infrastructure to be able to push through this new era of decentralization. And in the case of I think Uniswap is a really good use case that we can understand, is like because they've successfully built an exchange that doesn't require any centralization, and I think to me it's awesome, because eventually what you want to have is just whenever you have assets on the market that are being created by creators, you just want them to be able to be exchanged super easily without so much arbitrage between the platforms. And you want eventually for either the consumer to have the best price, you want for the market makers to be able to view all the data at once. You want to have an economy that is much more efficient ultimately. And so this is like more of the market fragmentation aspect of it. Like we don't want to have monolithic structure. We want to have more unified structure. And so that's why when we talk about the ArkProject, we talk about shared liquidity. Is because our perspective is not to create an infrastructure for marketplaces that are monolithic, but more unified. So in the sense that, for example, I'm going to give you an example of it. So today we have like 3 other marketplaces that came into the play with Flex, with Pyramid, and with Unframed on Starknet. And so what we are going around to propose them is just instead of actually having different infrastructure that they are building to be able to have the offer and the demand, we are going to provide them an infrastructure for them to share the same liquidity. And then we are going to create into this infrastructure incentives for people that are able to bring consumers and liquidity, and on the other side, bring creators and listing. So, eventually it's all about trying to create something which is smart, which is good for the economy, which is creating incentive for people to be able to be driven, both on the business side, the creator side, and the consumer side. So this is more about the philosophical aspect, and then of course the technological one, which is like we talked about it already, and we are mostly all of us here for the same reason on Starknet. But the high cost of the infrastructure is obviously for us a big deal. We don't want companies tomorrow that have too much of a cost trying to run applications on the blockchain, and this is pretty obvious to us. And so we think actually Starknet is the best place to be building it, because we believe in the team, we believe in the technology, we believe in the vision there. And on the other side, there is the poor user experience, where you have actually today, like as I said, the slow mechanisms that are really slow based on the blockchain latency, and on the other side as well, all the wallets and onboarding part that are really bad. But that will be eventually solved through account abstractions, so increased performance of the TPS, so through the reduction of the cost of the gas fees, through the zero knowledge technology. So all of this together, philosophical, technological, eventually it created what we wanted to be the best place for creators to be building their businesses, thinking of all the things that we've realized. And so we try to build on Starknet, because we believe Starknet is going to be the place where a big part of the alternative economy is going to be going through. And so we want Starknet to be the best place, because we believe it's going to be already the best place for on the technological perspective. So both like cost, again, performance, onboarding of the users. And on the other side, you want to create the best philosophical environment where actually the businesses are rewarded and incentivized for the good reasons. And so you create a good economy, and you create a good environment for people to develop themselves, while still being decentralized, while still being open. And so that's kind of the big point here for what we do. I try to be synthetic, but eventually with slides it could be easier to present you guys. But yeah, that's kind of the overall model here.
Yeah, you did a great job, Briyan, and very inspiring takes. And I was wondering if your tweet you were mentioning is the one pinned to
Correct.
your X account. Okay, that's great, because I posted it on the comment section together with other resources about the NFT, the Ark project, so that our listeners can find out more about it. And speaking a bit more about the technological features that you've been building in the past few months. We heard about the operator smart contracts and all other features such as the listing flow and also the fee structure. Yep. Could you elaborate a bit more on that for the more technical crowd, please?
So actually, the best people to be able to answer those questions in a very good technical way would be Chris and Remy. But I can give it a go to explain to you what we've tried to achieve there. So basically, what we wanted to do is so we want to build an order book ultimately. So if we speak about technical aspect, we want to build an order book, and we try to think about it as how do we build it in the open source way and in a decentralized way. And eventually, of course, like whenever we talk about building decentralized elements, it costs quite a lot of money to manage with the data, which is kind of the most hurting costs that you can have in the infrastructure. And so we have many part of the infrastructure that are we're gonna assume like the nodes and everything. But eventually, what we wanted to have is that we wanted to have an infrastructure which is capable of providing an order book publicly that is accessible to everyone and that is optimized in terms of cost efficiency. And so what actually came into the play recently this year was first initiated by the exploration team of Starkware with Abdel, with Madara. And that was a really interesting perspective. And I think there are many teams right now like Pragma and everything that are trying to use Madara as well as their own app chain for running their own infrastructure. And we thought that it was a really interesting perspective in the sense that it enabled us to diminish the cost of running our own infrastructure while still being decentralized eventually. And so, of course, we would need to run different nodes, and we need to make it the most decentralized possible. But it's a first step towards this direction, and of us wanting to build another book which is open to everybody, which is open source, which is decentralized, and the technology is not perfectly ready. So actually, we don't use Madara, for those that understand better this right now, because it's not yet at the good level. We use Katana, which is mostly initiated by the team of Dojo and Tarance and all the cartridge team, and so we have a person in our team which is called Glim, which is doing an amazing job actually working on those things as well. So basically this is kind of what we wanted to do. And so in terms of the fees, the way it works, and so if you guys have more questions in terms of how it works, if you wanted to have more detailed elements, the guys have been making a presentation in Starknet Summit in San Francisco. So you guys could go and watch it on YouTube, I guess. But in any case, if you wanted to start to have a more detailed technical perspective, I think the best thing would be eventually to be able to share some slides and to share the structure of what we've tried to achieve. And but we are going to ultimately talk about all those things in the upcoming weeks, because the main release is about to come in December, and we are going to announce a different partnership with different teams to implement the infrastructure already. So that's the first point. And so on the second point, on your question about the fees, so ultimately, whenever you think about an economical environment which is prosperous, what you want to have is you want to have all the actors that are part of stakeholders of this economy to be incentivized to try to generate the more virtuous cycle possible in terms of revenue generation. So, and I think, and I speak well at this point in my tweets, but what I've done OpenSea and Blur and stuff was much more a short-term move, where they actually try to just increase and to absorb as much of the consumer liquidity. But on the other side, they've put totally away the creators in terms of philosophical perspective, because they just they have cut them their creator royalties. Because our perspective ultimately is to say in a decentralized world, in a business world, no one should be able to decide or have an impact on a strategy being decided based on related to the business model of a company, because they have the control of the infrastructure. That's our perspective. So when OpenSea and when Blur decided to say, okay, so we're going to shut down the creator fees, it's basically saying to all the creators that, okay, we shut down your only business model at the moment. And so to us, it doesn't make any sense, because you could say, okay, that your business model is bad, you should lower your fees. Okay, that's a good point eventually. That could be a good point. But how can an infrastructure decide for anyone else what they should do because of their own strategy? And so our perspective was to say, okay, so we want to have the shared liquidity between all the marketplaces. But the thing is, of course, if all the marketplaces fight against each other, how do we make, in fact, that the marketplaces will be rewarded in a good manner? So the way the fees are splitted today It's like of course, so there is a part of the fees that are dedicated to the infrastructure. So us, we try to cover the cost of the infrastructure with the ArkProject. So there is a fees there. So whenever there is a sale, for example, let's say there is one ETH being and one ETH assets being sold on, let's say unframed. So, and there is on the other side the buying person that goes to Pyramid and buy this asset. So because they are going to share the same liquidity. So basically, when someone is going to list an asset on Unframed, it's going to appear directly on Pyramid. What we try to do is we try to create an environment where actually the person that brought the creators, so the person, the marketplace that brought the people that listed the assets, is going to get a reward when actually the asset is going to be sold. And if the marketplaces as well, and for the marketplaces that is actually bringing the consumer and the liquidity, so the people that are buying the assets, this one is going to take as well a reward for this. So basically, by doing this, what we do is we incentivize both the marketplaces that are bringing creators and marketplaces that are bringing liquidity. It could be two different strategy, or you could actually try to do both at the same time. But the perspective is to say, okay, so you want to have the best marketplace possible, and the best way to create marketplaces and the best economical environment is to try to incentivize both on the creator side and both on the consumer side. And so that's what we've tried to do with our that's what we propose right now with the creator fees, but with our fees mechanic, is to say we are going to provide to every stakeholder of the economy a reward based on their participation into the economy. And so this is true for us that we provide the infrastructure. This is true for the people that are that have the marketplaces that are listing, the marketplace that create the bid. Of course, the creator fees, which is going to be related to the strategy of the creator themselves. And then, of course, the consumer that will buy the assets. Obviously, when we start to talk about this, it could makes us think that we have many different fees ongoing right now, and that could actually be slowing down the economy eventually more than actually making it more sustainable. So that's I think what we need to figure out better as an economy, is to try to figure out what are the good amount of fees that we should take as a creator, that we should take as a marketplaces and stuff that makes eventually more consumer buying and more creator selling. And that is going to be more a philosophical question right now as a business perspective, and that we're going to try to answer with all the actors that we are working with. And I think this is kind of the biggest challenge that we have right now.
That's great, Briyan. Thanks a lot for enlightening us about the tech stack of the ArkProject. And for those listeners who would like to know more about the tech stack of the ArkProject, you can also find the amazing speech by Pierre during the last Starknet Summit about the ArkProject tech stack and cross-chain Starknet testing. I'm sure you will find it very, very interesting. And so, Briyan, let's wrap these episodes up by also talking a bit about the short-term vision and what you're aiming to do by the end of this year, more like a bit more in the specific.
Yep. So now we've been working on the structure and the R&D and the innovation side for a year. So what's coming out now is actually the main things and the main concrete aspect of it. So on one first side, in December we are going to announce, and we are going to so in November, December, in the coming weeks, we are going to make a private launch. So the reason why we do this is because we want to test, we want to iterate with our first users and to try to make the infrastructure the most stable possible. And so we are going to make this private launch first with few people that we are going to initiate it with. And then in December and early next year, we are about to announce like different partnerships with different companies. to start to concretely build this economy together with both the creators and the marketplaces. And so at the moment, right now, we are about to initiate the work on our side to provide the infrastructure to Starknet ID, which is one in our opinion, of the best use case at the moment into the ecosystem. And so we are really happy and really proud to be able to work with those guys to enable them to create their own marketplaces. And so we are going to provide this infrastructure to them so they could integrate into their applications directly their marketplace. So it's going to be a big milestone for us. And in the meantime, we are going to try directly to connect all the liquidity that we gather from Starknet ID to all the marketplaces at the same time. And so once we would have done this, it will already start to initiate this environment technology, ecosystem technology. And so that's the biggest target we can have. So this is a 2 to 3 months target. So we are not so far away. Actually, it's pretty close. And by the end of next year, like 2024, what we aim to do is we aim to do two things. First one, we aim to provide our infrastructure to all the teams in the Starknet native environment that want to have it. So to be able to have their own marketplaces within their own applications, to be able to list their assets, and so their assets are split across all the marketplaces from the ecosystem. That will be the first target that we have. And on the other side, what we are looking to do is as well, we want to create more and to provide more use cases within Starknet for NFTs. And so what we are actually looking actively to do right now is to onboard new teams within the ecosystem to actually for them to be building concrete and interesting use cases with our technology. So integrating NFTs and integrating the secondary marketplaces, secondary market through their own marketplaces. And so this is going to be the big two axes for us next year. Starknet native people, and then we're going to start the business development with actually bringing more external teams within Starknet.
Well, that's how Alpha is supposed to be, my friend. Thanks a lot for sharing it. Very excited about the next months, and also about the collaboration with Starknet ID. As you said, they're one of the most active projects, regarding NFTs and, NFTs use cases. And I'm sure there will be something great coming out of this partnership. And I wish you all the best, regarding the next months. And having said that, I would like to thank all the listeners who came here live to listen to this Star Cafe. And also, obviously, thanks a lot to Briyan for sharing a lot of information regarding the ArkProject NFT infrastructure. Thanks a lot, Briyan.
Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much, Star. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot once again. And it's now time to close. Remember to share the Starknet vibe and see you next time. Bye, guys. Bye, Briyan. Take care.